Dave is a fairly normal high school teen, with his best friends Todd and Marty who are avid comic book fans. Dave spends his days fantasizing about his hot English teacher and trying to find the courage to talk to his crush Katie, who barely notices him. Dave lives with his mom and dad, well lived, as his mom suddenly died one day from an aneurysm. 10 months after her passing, Dave and his two friends are chilling in a comic book store when Dave suddenly wonders why no one ever became a real-life superhero, but his friends tell him it would be pointless unless you had superpowers. The friends see their wealthy schoolmate Chris D'Amico enter the store with his bodyguard. While Todd and Marty think he is a rich prick, Dave thinks Chris must be lonely, always being by himself. Todd and Marty urge Dave to go and talk to Chris, but his bodyguard chases him away. The friends leave the store and Todd and Dave are heading home when they encounter two thugs who take their cash and also their comics. They then notice a man watching nearby who chooses not to do anything, which really bothers Dave. He heads home that night with the thought on his mind and purchases a skin-tight spandex suit. That night, we meet Frank D'Amico, Chris's father, businessman by day, menace to society by night as he leads a large criminal organization. He and his goons have one of their members pleading for his life, claiming that he did not sell Frank's stash. The man swears that some cloaked masked vigilante broke into the warehouse, but Frank finds it hard to believe such a story, as he heard from the Russians that the man sold them Frank's stash. Frank leaves his guys to torture the man and joins Chris in the limo where they are planning to go to the movies. They arrive just as Dave and his friends are leaving. Dave gets home to find his spandex suit has arrived and tries it on and instantly loves it. Meanwhile, we meet Mindy and her dad Damon, who is auditioning for Father of the Year by testing a bulletproof vest on his daughter. He tells her that this way she won't be scared when she is attacked by thugs, then bribes her with ice cream so he can shoot her again. The two get ice cream after, where Damon promises to get her butterfly knives for her upcoming birthday. Dave wears his spandex suit under his clothes to school, where he begins to design his costume and creates the name Kick-Ass for himself. For the first few weeks, Dave does what he calls training and immediately thinks that he can jump across rooftops, but remembers that gravity ain't no joke. One evening he encounters the same thugs breaking into a car and they chase him away. Dave runs away, but suddenly turns back up in full costume looking like a large cucumber. Dave approaches the thugs, telling them to walk away, but the men think that he is high or something. In the ensuing fight, Dave gets a reality check when he is suddenly stabbed in the stomach and left bleeding out as the thugs run away. Dave tries to stand and walk but suddenly gets flipped like a pancake by a car. Ambulances arrive and Dave manages to beg one of the attendants to keep his costume a secret before he is sent to the hospital. Frank is visited by his right-hand man Big Joe, who reveals that their source was lying about the man they killed and the masked vigilante could actually be real, so Frank decides to have a talk with their Russian source. By talking, Joe locks the Russian inside an industrial microwave, then demands to know who really sold him their stash, but the Russian explodes before he can talk. A few months later, Dave has recovered from his attack and has metal grafted all over his bones, which he thinks is cool. His dad wonders why the ambulance found him without clothes, worried that the muggers might have invaded his cheeks. Dave returns to school where his friends find it interesting that he cannot feel anything. Katie actually talks to him by the lockers and invites him out for coffee and to talk. Dave is excited, but Todd tells him not to get his hopes up, as there is a rumor going around that Dave is into guys, since the medics found him naked. Dave immediately gets back into his suit, and creates a MySpace page as a superhero for hire. That night, Dave finds a missing poster for a cat and begins asking around, trying to keep himself occupied. Later, he actually sees the cat on top of a street sign, but when he climbs up to help, he loses his grip and falls. At the same time a man trips over him. The man has been running from some gangsters who catch up to him and begin beating his ass. Dave tries to intervene, but when he gets pushed aside, he pulls up two batons and begins swinging wildly at the guys. The men start beating his ass, but Dave, who can't feel crap, is standing his ground. A crowd begins to gather with people taking video of the fight. Dave is tanking some massive hits, until the gangsters finally start feeling the baton swings. One man pulls a knife, warning Dave to walk away, but he refuses to back down, telling the man to bring it on. The men eventually back down and leave, and one bystander comes by asking Dave his name, to which he says Kick-Ass. Soon Dave's fight goes viral and he even makes the news, with people wondering who the costumed vigilante is. Everyone sees the reports, with Damon saying that he is a novice, and Frank confirming that the costumed people actually exist. Dave and Katie meet at the comic book shop for coffee, where she reveals that she is thinking about contacting Kick-Ass for help with a drug dealer named Rasul who has been harassing her. Katie reveals that she really thinks Dave is into guys, so Dave decides to play along to keep talking with her. That night Dave tracks down Rasul's trap house and finds him in a room with his goons. He warns Rasul to leave Katie alone, but his goons surround him. Dave tases Rasul in the face before his guys can hold him down, but before Rasul can attack, he is suddenly stabbed through the chest and killed by Mindy, revealing herself to be the costumed vigilante hit girl. The men try to attack her, but Mindy is very fast and skilled and brutally cuts the men down to the shock of Dave. One goon tries to sneak up on her, but a sniper shot to the head drops him. Damon, suited up as Big Daddy, reminds her to keep her back to the wall. Mindy steals Rasul's cash before climbing up to the roof with Dave following her, but when she launches herself across the rooftops, Dave is forced to watch them go. Dave returns home, realizing that compared to Hit Girl and Big Daddy, who are skilled, he is a nobody. Meanwhile, Big Joe shows Frank a blurry picture of a man in a suit who raided another of their warehouses and thinks that it is Kick-Ass. Frank then orders Big Joe to hunt down Kick-Ass and kill him. Dave is sleeping when he is awakened by Hit Girl and Big Daddy, who have snuck into his room. They reveal that they were able to track him down through his website. While Dave thinks that he is in over his head, Hit Girl thinks that Dave has potential and offers him help if he should need it. Frank calls his contact at the police station, wanting the cops to deal with Kick-Ass and take him out, but the cops think it would be too risky. They ask for one of their other guys, who it turns out is trapped in a car by Hit Girl and Big Daddy, and crushed to death after giving up some names and addresses. That evening, Sergeant Marcus gains access to Damon's apartment, where he finds a comic that Damon had written about the two. It turns out that Damon used to be a cop who worked alongside Marcus, but was framed by Frank and sent to jail. The trauma caused Damon's pregnant wife to off herself, but right before she died, she gave birth to Mindy. After Damon left prison, Damon trained himself and Mindy to get revenge on Frank. Damon turns up and Marcus confronts him about his recent actions, saying that he brainwashed Mindy into following him. Marcus reveals that the corrupt cop is hunting for Kick-Ass and warns that Damon might be next. Marcus leaves, but not before reminding Damon that he owes Mindy a real childhood. The next day, Frank is driving in his limo when he spots Kick-Ass walking by him. He has his driver follow Kick-Ass and confronts him as he walks into an alley. Frank brutally beats him down and shoots an innocent bystander before shooting Kick-Ass in the head. As it turns out, the man he shot was a Kick-Ass impersonator. Chris overhears the conversation and offers to lure Kick-Ass by also pretending to be a superhero and asking Frank to get him some items. Dave and his friends are chilling at the comic book store when they see on the news Chris dressed up as a new superhero, Red Mist, claiming that he is now fighting crime. That night, Kick-Ass gets a message from Red Mist requesting to meet up. The two meet in an alley where Red Mist offers to become Kick-Ass's new sidekick and reveals a Dodge Charger he calls the Mist Mobile. Red Mist takes Kick-Ass for a ride, but is actually taking him into a trap where Frank's men are waiting. Kick-Ass and Red Mist pull up to the warehouse, but to their shock the entire building is on fire. Red Mist runs inside where he sees all his father's goons killed in brutal ways. Kick-Ass runs inside after Red Mist, but the smoke and fire quickly engulf him and he is about to pass out until Red Mist finds him and the two escape the building. Frank pulls up and sees his warehouse on fire and leaves in shock. He gets back to his office and is worried that Chris is missing. When Chris turns up, he tells Frank that Kick-Ass had nothing to do with the warehouse and shows Frank a video from a hidden camera in the warehouse. On the video, Frank sees Big Daddy in full force, wiping out his men in quick succession before burning the building down. Finally seeing Big Daddy for himself, Frank orders that his entire building be locked down and sets his men on a citywide hunt for Big Daddy. Damon gets a warning call from Marcus, as the entire police department was tasked with finding Big Daddy as well. Hearing this, Damon decides to get serious and tells Mindy they will kill Frank next. Dave begins going through a mid-hero crisis, realizing that things are getting way out of hand. Before though, he suits up one last time and heads over to Katie's house to reveal his identity and get the girl. Instead, he gets his ass beat and is forced to reveal his identity to Katie before she sends him back to the ER. He reveals to her that he is actually Kick-Ass and that he isn't actually gay, which freaks Katie out. Dave confesses that he has strong feelings for her, which shocks Katie at first, but she eventually tells Dave to stay and the two share a kiss. Guys, watch out for your girl's gay best friend, you have to test if he's gay to know for sure. The two start dating and banging each other every chance they get. One night Dave checks his MySpace to see that Red Mist has been messaging him constantly, wanting to meet up. Dave puts on his suit and tells Katie, who is very worried as she should be. Kick-Ass meets Red Mist, who lies that the guys from the warehouse had friends who are hunting them for the incident. Red Mist insists that they need backup and convinces Kick-Ass to reach out to Big Daddy. Big Daddy gets the notification and plans to meet Dave at another warehouse, but unaware to Dave, a jeep of Frank's men are following them. The two arrive at the meetup location, which is actually Big Daddy's secret lair. As the two enter the room, Red Mist suddenly opens fire on Hit Girl, causing her to fall through a window, before Frank's men rush the room and tase Big Daddy. The men grab Kick-Ass as well, ignoring Red Mist's pleas to let him go. The men throw Big Daddy and Kick-Ass into a van and take them away. Frank's men are planning to unmask Kick-Ass on a live internet broadcast. The broadcast begins, with Katie, the police department and the entire city watching. The men begin to brutally beat Big Daddy and Kick-Ass, who, despite his metal plates, is starting to feel the damage. His life begins to flash before his eyes, thinking about Katie, his dad and all the things he never got to do, as the men begin to pour gasoline all over Big Daddy and himself. As the man prepares to drop his lighter, he is suddenly shot and the lights go out. The men inside scramble to get the lights back on. Meanwhile, someone activates night vision and begins stalking and killing the men. The guys return fire, but unable to see who their attacker is, they fire wildly before being killed. One man manages to find the lighter and set some of the spilled gas on fire to reveal Hit Girl. The men open fire at her, causing her to retreat. The fire begins to burn Big Daddy alive, but the gunfire is stopping Hit Girl from getting to him. Big Daddy uses his remaining energy to coach Hit Girl on how to counter the men. Hit Girl skillfully evades the men and manages to ambush and kill them before ending the live stream. Frank and Chris are left speechless, while Todd thinks he's in love with Hit Girl, and I think I hear the FBI outside. Hit Girl manages to put Big Daddy out and he painfully tells her that he is proud of her. Hit Girl barely manages to tell him she loves him before Big Daddy passes away in front of her. Dave and Mindy take Red Mist's car and set out. They get back to her hideout where Mindy immediately begins to prepare to get revenge for her father. Kick-Ass sees that she is planning to take on Frank's entire security detail by herself and tells her that she cannot do this on her own and decides to repay Big Daddy by joining her. Mindy pulls up to Frank's building dressed in a schoolgirl outfit claiming to be lost, but suddenly shoots all the men dead. She gets to the top floors all suited up and instantly begins to take out the guys. Frank's men all decide to take lunch at the same time and are huddled in one place when they hear a gunshot. The men ready their guns, but Hit Girl does the greatest fighting sequence ever and wipes out all the guys skillfully. She runs out of ammo and is forced to hide behind a counter, but the men are too scared to check. They force one man to go check for her, but he gets killed by knives. The large bodyguard then decides to grab a bazooka he had taken from Big Daddy's safe house while the men pin Hit Girl down with gunfire. He is about to fire at the counter when they are shocked to see Kick-Ass flying a jetpack with mounted machine guns. He opens fire, tearing everything to shreds and killing the men. Mindy instantly runs to confront Frank and manages to disarm him. Frank sends Chris to attack Dave while he takes on Mindy and manages to drop her with a powerful kick. "Sir, that's child abuse." Mindy recovers and fights back, but Frank begins strangling the shit out of her. She tries to fight back but Frank overpowers her and throws her down hard. Dave and Chris are battling it out with sticks, trying to get the upper hand but only manage to knock each other out. Frank goes for his gun to finish Mindy off, but Dave recovers and confronts him with the bazooka and blasts Frank through the window, killing him. Dave picks up Mindy and flies away. The two formally introduce themselves to each other before posing like idiots. A few weeks later, Mindy has moved in with Marcus, who has enrolled her into Dave's school, and on her first day some bullies find out the hard way not to mess with her. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you can watch more movies like this. Thanks for watching.